This is episode 238 of the Focused Mindset Podcast. And today I am going to go over in detail the little cute handout that I gave out at ASCA. Two reasons for this is because I can't count how many people came up and said, I wish you would have had time to go over it more. Because what I really do on this little tiny handout is walk through my GPS conversation navigation and how you can teach it to other people who aren't counselors. You just want to help them communicate better. So we're going to take the time to go through this today. Now, before we even get into all that, I want to give a shout out to my friend, Lori Woodley Langendorf. She is a wonderful, you guys all probably saw her on January 7th on my podcast. She was a guest on episode 226. She talked about All It Takes and her whole entire organization. But you know what? She's also a new author. And she is the author of the amazing book, SEL Muscle Mastery. SEL Muscle Mastery is a book that not only teaches us about SEL, social and emotional learning, but also gives us a chance to understand how we can make that a part of our everyday life and how we can change how we approach learning ourselves to be able to be more effective every single day. And man, it's just a powerful book. And it was really cool because I was able to walk around with her at the conference I was at and be a part of watching her hang out with her publisher. And then she did me a huge favor and helped me out on my workshop. And the person who usually has the people taking pictures of her and taking video and reels of her, she decided to do that for me. And I just felt like it was an act of giving that was so kind and so wonderful. Usually I kind of sneak my husband in to do those kind of things, right? Or have somebody else, but I was left without somebody to help me out taking some pictures. And she didn't only do that. She handed things out. She was just had an incredible giving spirit. And we had many conversations throughout the conference about how that's what it's all about. It's all about us being able to give. And that's why she wrote her book. And that's why she does what she does. But then I was able to see it in action. Thank you, Lori, for helping me out. You passing out things, taking pictures, honestly, just being there. It helped me more than you'll ever know. So thank you so much. And I'm going to have her on this podcast again to talk about the book. And I'm going to be with her on August 2nd for her launch party. Maybe I'll post some pictures on Instagram just to celebrate this wonderful adventure of hers to be able to get this book out into your hands. And so you can look forward to that in the future. But hey, it's time for us to get into this episode. So let's get started. This is the podcast that we adjust our mindset so we can build strong connections and have amazing conversations using the solution-focused approach. I'm Cher Kretz. I'm a school counselor, I'm a TEDx speaker, and I'm a solution-focused specialist. For far too long, I lived my life thinking that I needed to have all the answers. Now I know that giving hope is far more important than giving advice. And on this podcast, we take our thoughts captive and we look at ways that we can rise up and be the person we were always meant to be, not only for ourselves, but for those that we serve. Now, you can jump over to our website, thefocusedmindset.com, to learn more about our products and services, or over to Amazon to get the journaling notebook, 30 Days to Higher Hopes. Let's get started. GPS, conversation, navigation. It's important. I talk about it a lot. I talk about how, hey, I want you guys to be able to navigate conversations in such a way that's going to make an impact, that's going to be able to, change the world. okay, maybe every conversation we have isn't about to change the world, but you never know when you're going to have a conversation that makes such an impact that somebody remembers it for years to come. You never know the conversation that you're going to have that helps somebody have the aha moment that they've always been needing to have. And you're going to accidentally miss up opportunities to do that if you're not in tune with how to have conversations. But what about when you're influencing others and you want to teach them how to have better conversations? Going over my little handout that I've shown a few times about questions that you can ask to be able to practice the GPS conversation navigation model is going to help you on both accounts. It will help you be able to use those sentences, practice what you preach, and it will help you know how to invest in others to do the exact same thing. So, what is GPS conversation navigation? Well, GPS is an acronym for Gather, Plan, Start. And this happens to be how my mind began to conceptualize the solution focused approach so I could remember it quickly. It really started as a hack for myself to be able to remember what I'm doing. There are, 3 basic steps, but people have broken up into 7 steps, as they do. It can be more complicated and less complicated depending on how deep of a dive you're getting into solution focused practices. I've been getting pretty deep into learning with so many different books that I've purchased and read in my own research. But I needed to boil it down to something that I could remember, not only when I'm sitting in counseling, but when I'm out there having conversations. So I came up with this GPS navigation system. Gather is the first step. To me, when I think of gathering, I think of my grandma used to have, I think it was, I want to say a plum tree. I really, really wish I remember whether it was peach or plum. Definitely wasn't apples. She had a tree in her backyard for a period of time. And we would go out there and pick all of them. And she used to say, just pick them all. Don't look at the if they're good or bad right now. Just pick what we can pick, and then we'll go through them later. And we would just get buckets and buckets full. And I use this analogy in 3 Days to Higher Hopes because that's what I look at as gathering thoughts. People have so many thoughts rolling through their mind, don't they? They're just rolling, rolling, rolling. We lose so many of them. Sometimes we lose the best ones because they come in and then straight back out. And then we're engulfed with some negative thought or something that we've got to do, right? And part of my job as a counselor and also as a great communicator that I strive to be is to be able to allow that person to find the gems within all of their thoughts and then bring it to the surface. And I feel as though we do that through just gathering their thoughts. There's a period of time in the conversation where you want to let go of any of your inhibitions, any of your judgment, any of your thoughts of advice, and just gather their thoughts. The more solution focused you are, the more you're going to be listening to it with a fine tuned ear. But let's just take all that away and just straight up listen. Let's just straight up be in the moment. If we're going to want to meet somebody where they're at, we're going to have to let go of our judgment. We're going to have to say, it's okay if we disagree. It's okay if my mind starts to move 100 miles an hour of like, this is wrong. And I want to stand on this, whatever it is. If it's important for us to have connections and build rapport and build something that's going to matter with another person, we first have to be able to see where they're at and respect that, respect the place that they're standing in the world that they're in with all that they have accomplished and the challenges they've walked through in their life, and gather information without judgment. Like you just take all of that fruit off the tree. And, there will be time, maybe to go through and decipher some of that. And it will be obvious, like, there's a flaw here that we might want to take that apple out and that's not working. So let's not use it. And let's use the ones that are working. Of course. But are we ever going to get there if we're looked at as somebody who just jumps in and always has something to say, or as somebody who has such strong opinions that they're not relatable or are not even worth talking to because all they want to do is share their opinions. So the first step is gather without judgment their thoughts. And the questions that we have, the number one question we're going to go through more in a few minutes is, what's on your mind? Now, let's move on to the next step in GPS, and that is plan. Plan is not meaning that it's your turn. You get to make all the plans. Yay, I have this, I have that. No, no, no. That is not it. It is actually a time for you to think, oh, they have an opportunity to make a plan for their life, for their preferred future. I could have made this their preferred future, but it just didn't flow as much as plan. The way I want you to look at plan is they need to make a plan for their life, for their preferred future. What is their preferred future? You find that out with questions. You find that out with amazing solution-focused questions that open their mind to possibilities, and then bringing that out in them. And again, it will be, well, most likely will be something that was furthest from your mind. I cannot count the number of times that I've stepped back and done my GPS conversation navigation when I want to say, oh, I know what needs to happen. And then the person I'm talking to comes up with an even more amazing idea that I would have never thought of. And I'm thinking, thank goodness I shut up. So even during this planning phase, you ask questions, you listen, you allow their mind to think, their mind to act, and their words to be drawn out. And you say that with a number of questions we're going to go through in a minute, but one of which is, what is the next right choice? The next right choice infers that the next step, which is start, is on its way. But it also allows the person to begin to wonder, what is my next right choice? And the next step in the GPS conversation navigation is, of course, start. You could say sprint forward. You could say soar forward, but it's all about moving forward. And you can't make someone move forward, but you can invite them, a call of action, if you will. Many of the YouTube videos that you'll watch will end with a call of action. What I want you to do, I don't know, subscribe, follow, blah, 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 blah. But it's because action is really important, right? It's an important step. There's many people that would argue that hope is nothing without action, that action is actually what gives hope the wings, right? So start is the S in GPS. And that just reminds me that I really desire for them to get started. I want them to take a step forward. And their step forward might be as simple as just noticing. Their step might be to walk through life for the next week or so, noticing anything that might be different or anything that might spark your interest to move forward on the plans that you've talked about. Another thing is, though, it's also builds into being a cheerleader, right? It also builds into being the person that you're not going to be able to walk around with them day in and day out. But there's something that happens when we're somebody's cheerleader. It's the same thing that happens when we're a mentor, right? To somebody, is that you are now on their mind as someone that's cheering them on, even when you're nowhere near them. And so you could say, you got this. I believe in you. This is a perfect fit. I'm so excited to be able to find out what happens as you implement some of these things, as you take steps forward. I'm having people pop in my mind right now that do this for me. And it absolutely does give me the power and energy to move forward. It does more than that, though. It gives me accountability. Because when I know that this person is rooting for me, I also know that I'm kind of accountable to them. I said I was going to do something. Now, am I going to be true to that or not? Now, when you circle back around for your follow-up with this person or your next interaction, you don't jump directly to, did you do those things? Well, how are you going to do them? Because there's no reason to, we're never getting everything done. But just know that if you are in this process with someone, most likely they either are in a phase of feeling a certain type of way of bad feelings because they didn't get something done. And then it's your job to be able to say, well, what did you get done? Let's celebrate that. Or maybe even how was your thoughts different? Or just looking at the small changes instead of worrying about if the whole thing was done, because we don't want to wallow in any type of guilt. People might even feel as though they're avoiding, like, oh, I don't want to talk to them because I haven't got that thing done yet, right? So you want to avoid that. You want to be able to be that person, even in the follow-up, that you are their cheerleader, their best cheerleader, not their judge at that point either, right? So now we have it. We have the GPS navigation conversation system. Now, what I talked about in the ASCA conference, and I've talked about many times in the California conference, and I'll be speaking about again at another conference coming up, is that we can train the people around us. If we're teaching people how to communicate, especially us as educators, and we have an opportunity to train younger students to be communicators, we can train them to be solution-focused communicators. They might not move in the same type of way that a counselor would. They won't, obviously, but they can ask questions that lead kids into a place of discovery about themselves and less judgment. So let's go over these questions that I have in this. Now, these questions I specifically designed to be the type of questions that anybody can ask. They're not therapeutic. They're not, you can use them as a counselor, sure, and see where that directs you, but they're for just about anybody. You can use it, parents, for your kids, whatever the case may be, friendship. And keeping in mind that real conversations are fluid, right? They're not going to actually move in this way. If you end up getting very concrete and be like, wait, we already talked about this. Now we need to move to plan. Now we need to move to start. It will seem really weird, right? So understand that sometimes this moves around. Sometimes in a conversation, you stay in that gather mode. You don't want to flow into problem talk, but sometimes you want to listen to that, because venting is also something, right, that sometimes people need with their good friends. But let's talk about the first phase. Let's talk about gathering information without judgment in a way that is not only non-confrontational, but also builds community, at least if you're following these questions. What is on your mind? What is on your mind? When I just ask you that right now, you begin to think about some thoughts you're having. Like I said earlier, thoughts that might come and go and be lost. But let's bring out these thoughts. I think many times that because of our texting and because of using our telephones so much, that things stay up in our mind when they shouldn't be. If it was actually said out loud, you might look at it a totally different type of way. Have you ever read out loud something that you text and then you're like, oh, I didn't mean to make it sound like that. I was just kind of saying what was on my mind. And then in a text, and then you say it out loud, totally different story, right? We need, though, to allow people to have the opportunity to share what's on their mind and say it out loud, because then they probably will have that aha moment of, is this really something that makes sense? Is this really where I'm at? Or it confirms within them that, yes, this is how I feel. And now I've heard it out loud. And the next step, maybe writing it down to be able to solidify that. So what is on your mind is powerful. The other reason why it's powerful is because it stays out of the feeling mode. I'm not against feelings, obviously, but there's a big difference between emotions and feelings. And if we get too much into the feeling, we could get too much into the problem talk. So dealing with emotions, I'll talk about this more on another podcast, is better. Like, what emotion are you having about this? What emotion are you experiencing? And so what is on your mind is a way for people to think about how they're thinking and kind of maybe let go of some of the emotions related to it that are counterproductive. The next question on this form is, what are you looking forward to? So keeping in mind that this is for student mentors. So when you're meeting student to student, asking these kind of general questions are something that they should be asking. What are you looking forward to? Because maybe they automatically would say, "Oh, what stinks? What's going wrong?" But you want to challenge them to talk about the things that are going well, and if possible, not to ignore the problems, but to have a conversation about the things that you can celebrate. So, what's going well today is the next question. What's the best part of your day? Talk about it, laugh about it, share the story about it. And what can I help you with? Now, that's controversial because there are, as far as solution focused counselors, you're putting it in your hands. I can help you. Let me help you. And people will say, people don't want to be helped. So, any version of that, of being like, what do you think is your best hope for this conversation? It's kind of like what that's saying. What do you think I can help you with? And it does invite them to talk about the problem, but hopefully in a productive way. Because we don't want to ignore problems. We just don't want to complain so much that we never get anywhere else. So when you're working with your student mentors, you want to make sure that you explain why this gathering phase is important and what it is and what it is not. It is a time to share. It's not a time to get caught up in the complaining, and your bond is based on some type of gossip or complaining or any type of situation like that. We move on to the plan phase that we already talked about, and let's find out what questions that we could use with these kids. Now, it also says on here, making plans for the future are important. This is an important step. Making, even if it's just one plan for the future that's right before them. And you can help them do that by asking questions that will help them come up with ideas and making sure that you, though, are not the one that's making the plan for them. We can do that with these questions. One of which is, what do you hope will happen? The next one is, what is the next right choice? I spoke about that one earlier. Sometimes people have never thought about that. They've thought about the next choice. Their mind's running a million miles an hour, but what's the next right choice is a totally different situation, right? So, what ideas have you had lately? Again, this is tapping into what they've already been thinking about, which may be the ideas that are going to wash away when the next time they see something else. We want to capture some ideas about this particular problem they may have brought up. What are some ideas have you had that might solve it? And next is, what do you think you could do instead? Now, I love this because instead is such a cool word that now once I started implementing it, it was able to change people's mindset in such a cool kind of way, because someone says what they don't want to do. And then you say, well, what would you do instead? If you weren't doing that, what would you be doing instead? And it's just a little flip of how you say something, but I encourage you to try it out, because I'd also like the people that I talk to talk about not only what they won't do, but what they are going to do. And you can do that by using the word instead. What would you do instead if you weren't feeling lousy, if you weren't sleeping all day, if you weren't feeling as though what would you be doing instead? That's one way to be like moving from, I wouldn't be feeling like I don't want to, work anymore. It's okay that people are expressing their feelings. Let's move that though to what you imagine you would be even feeling instead. And then moving to what emotion, so the emotion you would be experiencing is, and then name those emotions. And someone goes, oh, that's right. Those are the emotions that I'd rather be feeling instead. What time have you ever felt that in the past, right? This is the next logical place that my mind usually goes. And the last one is on this paper is, what would the best you do? And I have a whole activity where we write out the best you, the day that you are the best you that you can be, what is happening on that day, and just making it really beautiful and meaningful and real to that person. And so this question, what would the best you do? It kind of usually puts that little smile or that thoughtful look that you see that people have, and they're like, what would the best me do? And it's hard to get out of their brain. It's hard to shake once they move forward, which I love. So what would the best you do? And then listen, just again with the listening, right? And now let's talk about the statements that I suggest that anybody can say to help someone when they're being their cheerleader, helping them get started. The first of which is, you got this, right? You should get started. You have amazing ideas. I bet you're going to make yourself proud. Or really any encouraging comment. I would say it's best if you take the encouraging comment away from them making you proud. For some of the reasons we already talked about, where they're not working to make you proud, they're really working to make themselves proud for the thing that they want to work for, because it's not like then when you're not there, it's kind of like out of sight, out of mind, or they are working for approval, right? So we want to kind of like back off of that by saying, oh, you make me so proud. It's going to happen that you say that from time to time. Sometimes my kids do make me proud and I just have to tell them. But it's a little more of, I don't know, it just kind of has a little more weight when you're able to say, I bet you'd make yourself proud. And then they feel that feeling rush over them. So there's lots of different encouraging things you can say. The idea is you want people to learn to be encouraging after they've been through this process, to truly be encouraging. Smile, make eye contact. Reach out to them, find a way to reach out again and say, and give them a high five and just be there for them. Be there for the people that you care about. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't have to know exactly what they need to do just to be there. And that's kind of what the start is because they're the one that's going to do all the work. You are going to not do that work for them. And so you just want to be there as they start and encourage them and be that most amazing mentor that you can be. If you can learn to be a mentor in someone else's life, you are going to be able to have a very unique relationship. If you look back on anyone that's really helped you in a period of your life and mentored you, you always have a very unique relationship. Teachers to their student teachers many times, or a professor that they used to have. So it's something that you shouldn't shy away from. It's something that we should teach our students to do, to develop skills, to give back, even if they are still experiencing some type of problems, trauma, sadness, worry, they can still give back to those that are just a few steps behind them, right? So that's what this training card is all about. I had absolutely no time to go through all of this at the conference, which I did not like. I brushed through it. It's like, here it is, you have it, go for it. So I'm going to send this out actually to a lot of the people that were at that conference, those that were able to give me their email. So now you have a little extra bonus training. And then of course the other side had a little note, and it was really cool. We had stopped and just paused and thought about a person in our life that has leadership qualities and they're just not being used. And let's stop and do that right now as we close up. Think about a person that you know in your life, either somebody you work with that you know has some leadership qualities that are misunderstood, that are not being utilized, that are not being seen, that are not being heard. And you would really like to be a person that helps them show leadership. Reach out and do that. Reach out and say, I bet you can make a difference. Maybe introduce them to someone in their life that they might be able to make a difference with. And then watch how that relationship grows. Watch how it thrives. Watch what can happen when people help other people. It's powerful. And it's exciting. It's something that excites me to go to work, to be a part of the mentorship program that I've put together. It's one of the more exciting parts of my job. I have to tell you right now, there's a lot of stuff that I'm going to be doing that kind of like, I don't know, worries me. Like ramp, I am planning on getting all of my stuff together for ramp for this next school year. And I want you guys to know that you're going to hear something about that. I'm probably going to be putting it on my stories on Instagram and making it one of those little circle stories at the bottom, just my ramp, I don't know, experience, I guess. I'm sure every single person experience is different. I'm just getting to use the time calculator. I'm going to get everything organized. And I did some stuff last year, but this is when the rubber meets the road. And so I'm nervous about that, man. And I don't know who is really going to stand out as someone I can reach out and help. I'm kind of like in looking mode of a mentor, like, oh, who might? So if you are in elementary and you have done ramp, you can email me, check the show notes. Please do, especially if you're in California. Please, I will email with you. You can give me your insights. It would be amazing because I don't think in my particular school district there's any elementaries yet that are doing that. So I am saying let's go for it. Let's move forward. And for those of you that don't know ramp, it's a special ASCA recognition that's given to schools, and the counselor has to drive the work to make sure that this school is putting in all of the elements of counseling that makes school culture thrive. And it's quite a process, and that comes with an award and accolades and all of that. But the work that is involved in ramp is something currently I'm a little nervous about, but I am choosing to think about it like this. I'm going to gather the information on it. I'm going to make a plan, get a start, going to go for it. You guys will hear about it. And it's already time for us to wrap this up. You're also going to have a future episode with the actual workshop, although it's only audio. And then you are going to have an episode that I'm going to record shortly about what I learned at ASCA and some of the things that I had as a takeaway. And time for us to get going. So until next time, live solution focused.